Welcome to Becoming PowHERhouse, where we discuss the tough lessons I've learned while taking my two companies from negative revenue to over 7 figures. We'll talk about the raw and vulnerable truths about being boss, as well as tips and strategies you can implement immediately for better business results. I'm your host, Nicholle Overcamp, the founder and CEO of Wilcox Financial Group and PowHERhouse Coaching. You can see links and other resources in our notes. Don't forget to head over to PowHERhouseMoney.com to grab your free PowHER bundle for business and subscribe to our newsletter. Now, let's dive in to today's episode. So, how would you guys like to hear from a Billboard charting artist? This is the first that we have had someone who is a professional artist. I can't sing, she can, on the pod. So my PowHERhouses, Caley Rose is going to join us, and I am so excited for you to hear our conversation. And what is extra cool about this is we actually went to high school together. Haven't chatted since high school, but have kind of been following each other on social media and recently reconnected, offering the opportunity for me to ask her on the show. So not only is she a Billboard charting artist, she's also a motivational speaker and creator of Music with a Message, which is a nonprofit organization and company that she has founded and runs. She's an empowering pop singer and songwriter who has been featured on Forbes, NPR, Authority Magazine, ABC, Fox, Top 40 Radio, commercials, and more. After being bullied in middle school, Caley dedicated her life to finding her own self-esteem and to empowering women and students to discover their own by using the power of music. In creating her Music with a Message program to bring confidence to your audience of kids, teens, and women. She's received awards, grants for her work in music and education, and regularly partners with women's and children's charities across the country. She's currently on a cross-country tour with her family and is doing it in their renovated Airstream trailer called the Shiny Twinkie. So, my friends, please enjoy this chat I had with Caley. So, my PowHERhouses, I have a very special guest. Thanks so much for listening to Becoming PowHERhouse. You can find all of the links to our site and resources in the show notes. Let's connect on Instagram at PowHERhouse Money, and don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at PowHERhouseMoney.com. Remember, I want to connect with you. I want to hear your thoughts and help you with all the challenges you're having. So engage, send me a DM. And of course, if you're loving this podcast, let us know and go ahead and hit the subscribe button and leave a review. That I went to high school with for 4 years. So welcome, Caley.
Thank you. Middle school, actually. I haven't talked to you or seen you since we were 13, probably.
Oh my God. Is that right? Yeah.
Middle.
Zero concept of time.
Shout out Middle.
Which is really funny because I was reading a little bit about you, and in one of your interviews, you had said that you were made fun of a lot in middle school. And I remember you being like a cool girl. So I thought that was so funny. I was like, I always, and I admired you and a couple of other women just for your bravery and courage for singing and being in front of an audience because I'm so introverted. So I was like, they are total rock stars. And now you really are. But that struck me as it is wild. And now speaking to the work that you're doing. So, could you just bring the audience through a little bit your journey? Because I think it's so interesting in the life that you've chosen for yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, it is very crazy because we went to middle school together and that is where I was bullied. And people might not know, people hide it. And it was one female in particular in a number of different instances repeatedly. And, it's in the past. Who knows why that was happening? Now that I'm grown, I understand. And if anyone out there who has been bullied, only hurt people. So that person was going through something. And I'm still bullied. Like, let's be honest. I'm putting things out online and I have online online trolls. I go live on TikTok and Instagram almost every day, and I'll have trolls come in and say things. And, whether it's about my appearance or something I'm saying or my voice when I'm singing, it's different all the time. And there's something going on with them. So now I understand that, because old me, even just, 5 years ago, I was a very different confidence level.
Mhm.
Old me would have thought that it had to do with me and that what they were saying was true. But now, through what I'm doing in schools and through all the work on confidence I've done for myself in order to work on confidence in schools, I understand that that person's just going through their own thing, and it truly
Mhm.
could have nothing to do with you. And it's such a much
Yeah.
more powerful position to come from when you actually can have sympathy for that bully instead of
Mhm.
taking on the story that they're trying to give you. So, yeah. So then I've always been a singer, as Nicholle knows, and I started to create this empowering music once I became a songwriter. And as a songwriter, I started noticing that young people were gravitating toward my music and resonating with the message. And I realized I didn't know how to reach them, because
Mhm.
whatever you feel about marketing, it's beneficial because we can reach a greater audience and find the people that want to find the music. And I couldn't reach them through marketing on Facebook and Meta, or slash Meta, or now known as Meta. And
You're
so I
old.
started,
Facebook is fine.
y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then it just kind of clicked in my mind. I was like, I was bullied, and I've had such a journey with self confidence that I want to help kids through that experience. And then I just started completely imperfectly going into schools and
Mhm.
speaking and singing with my original music. And I didn't have a program in the beginning. I didn't have an acronym or principles to self confidence in the beginning. It's laughable looking back, that people were inviting me into schools, but I started with schools that I knew, either teachers or students at. And it just, when you're on the right track, things snowball. It's so amazing
Mhm.
how people and community and whatever you believe in higher rises to meet you.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah. It's wild when you put it out into the universe, and
Yeah.
where what is that expression, where your attention and energy goes, everything flows. And
Yes.
in
Yes.
having that conviction and belief, and you love what you do, which is really such a gift, right?
Yeah.
And it's that ikigai, right? Finding
Right.
what fulfills your soul and loving what you do, but also doing what the world needs.
Yeah.
And that in itself is such a diamond, because so many people never get that opportunity in life,
Yeah.
to find that combination of things, especially in America. I think our
Yeah.
culture often is full of either complacency or just hustle and grind, don't question. And so I think that's so great. And then it's inspiring kids, like that's. I'm such a big advocate of that, especially for girls, because I say all the time, like, I wish I had a mentor or a guide when I was younger, and even young in business. I mean, because your
Yeah.
point to those bullies, man, like, they're always around in just
Yeah.
different forms. And
Totally.
for me, the older I got, the worse they got, the more mean they were, the more damage they could do, because in your 20s, like, your 20s suck, you have no idea who you are.
Prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. I
Not
know.
fully
To get
developed,
me
like,
to trust you and make
yeah.
decisions and figure out what you want to do, it's
Oh
impossible.
yeah. Yeah. And for me, like, self-confidence was zero, self-worth slowly climbing, and so it's just funny looking at that. And then probably some similarities as to bullies I had in middle high school. And it doesn't leave, and now, and I love how you said hurt people, because it took me probably the decade of my 20s
Yeah.
to understand that, like, hey, you know what, you're projecting, that's you, not me. And
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing is worthy, and I love it, and so I'm going to do me, you do you. And if you want to comment on my social media and grow my engagement, thank you so much.
There we go.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. So in having that thick skin, I suppose, and really, I'd say courage
Yeah.
is so important, especially in a day and time where, and I'm sure you're seeing this, like, everybody is terrified to speak up,
Yeah.
and do what they want, because, and I talk to women all the time, and especially women in business, they're terrified to cheer themselves on or be their own advocate because of how they may be judged.
Yeah.
And for you are going after exactly what you want, regardless of that. and
Yeah.
making an impact. And so many of our guests on the show, if not all of them actually are impact driven, right? Like we have
Yeah.
a deeper meaning toward something bigger than us, which is what is part of a powerhouse in the first place. And so, tell me a little bit about that, because you're kind of wearing two hats from what I see. Is that right? You've got your solos in your solo albums or records. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
music lingo is like not.
That's okay.
But and I love your music actually, and I pulled up one of the songs because I didn't want to mess up the title. But you guys, we're gonna share everything in the show notes. But I was listening to this and I was like, I can get down with this. Trees touch skies.
Oh,
That
that is
song.
everyone's favorite.
Okay.
It makes me so happy.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
just so beautiful. And so guys, download that on YouTube, Spotify. I think it's everywhere. I
Yeah,
stalked you a little bit.
everywhere.
But so you're doing that part, and then the other part of you is like this massive inspiration, probably somebody that some kiddos want to aspire to be in running that organization that you have for children. And I think this is really important to talk about too, Caley, because you're making a difference. I'd love to know too, and because you're helping kids going through divorce, and that so many of our audience are, number one, they're almost all women. We've got some he's for she's on here, but mostly women.
Appreciate
In
it.
a
I've never
lot,
heard that, and I love it.
isn't it great?
Yep.
And their mamas, and a lot of them have gone through divorce or want to,
Yeah.
and coming out on the other side. And again, what I hear, and especially my conversations on the financial planning side of my world, is like, I don't want to hurt my kids, so I'm going to stay miserable forever. And which to me is like, no, like happy you is happy kids, but I don't
Yeah.
have kids too. And I think sometimes like I get that I'm a product of divorce, but I don't have kids. But I think that work is so impactful because they're sensitive. But knowing from a mom's perspective, like, how can I get my kiddo help? They're struggling right now. And what's unique, what's different, because some of the play therapy out there is like, it sounds good, but the difference isn't being had. And I think there's so much to music and in the science behind it even, right?
Yeah.
In what you're doing. So can you dive a little deeper in that? I love that part of it so much.
Absolutely. I mean, there are so many parts, and you're absolutely right. Music has that staying power. So we
Mhm.
might, a song comes on the radio and we're like, I haven't heard this in 30 years, and somehow I know every single word. And
Yes.
so that's why I think music is so important to impart confidence, because it stays in our subconscious and it informs our sense of self for longer than we can even imagine. And then the divorce stuff. Yeah. So I was featured in Forbes this year in an article, 5 ways to raise your child's self-confidence after divorce. And it was with a number of other mental health experts. And one of my favorite tips was from Dr. Nicholle, where she said, if you aren't the resource for your kids to get out those emotions or process, what they're going through, that's okay. As long as they're talking to someone, it doesn't necessarily have to be you. And so, I always say with confidence, like, I wish there was do these 3 things and you'll be
Mhm.
great, but
Right.
every situation is different and it's such a gray area. But that is one of my favorite things, because I know, like, even with my little brother who's 15, I wish I were his confidant and he was the one that he was talking to all the time. But I actually hired a mentor for him a little while back, because I was like, I feel like he needs a guy close to his age, because that's who he relates to most. So,
Yeah.
I hired that person, and they were able to just talk in private and, make sure that person is, of course, a trusted source.
Yeah.
But now that I've been more in with music with a message and bullying and mental health in schools and for kids, I've come across so many organizations that provide these services. And there's one, we can link to it later. It's really wonderful. Lines for Life, I want to say it is, but it's like a text messaging service, an email service, a phone service, and a chat feature on their website for kids and teens who need just someone to talk to. And they
That's
train
cool.
like the teenagers who are behind it
Mhm.
and all of that. Because that's what I was like, why doesn't this exist? Do I need to start
Yeah.
this? And it does. So that's a great resource. Yeah. I hate that I
That's
can't think of
awesome.
it.
It happens every time you're like on the spot,
Yep.
just like I couldn't think of solo album or
Yeah.
single, like, words
I
are hard.
know.
Um, And as you've gone through your journey, and so just to pivot, like being a singer and trying to put yourself out there is no joke. Like you have to hustle, and I think your industry is one that is glamorized quite a lot.
Yeah.
And everyone sees the other side, but not the work that goes in.
Below the surface, treading
Yes,
water.
behind the scenes,
Yeah.
everyone's seeing like, oh my God, her life is so amazing. And she gets to travel all over in an Airstream and like sing songs for a living. Like, so what is the real deal? Like,
Yeah.
what are some of the biggest like lessons you learned or hardest things that you had to climb through? Because my theory on this is we're more alike than we are different, regardless of your
Yeah.
industry.
Absolutely. I've made every mistake in music, so I'm trying to share that as much as possible online so other people don't. Like, I've
Hmm.
trusted the wrong people, I've paid the wrong
Yeah.
people. There was a time where I worried that I had a curse over my head in music because I met three people in a row who just were money hungry and took advantage of
Oh.
my dreams. And it was sad. And they kind of boasted that their quality was one thing. And I was so
Mhm.
young and impressionable and trusting. But I also, I had parents who were looking out for me and they tried to do their due diligence and say, is this person reputable? But at the end of the day, like I would get these songs back and be like, this doesn't sound like it would be on the radio. It doesn't sound like the quality. And then the
Yeah.
person would say like, oh, well, when we mix it, it's going to change. And like mixing doesn't change things that much. It does change things, but not that much.
Yeah.
And same thing with the mastering process, which I could get into the technical aspects of. But the point is, the lessons that I've learned of if someone is telling you to pay cash under the table and they're not willing to sign a contract, you might be 20 and you might think that you have no value in any industry. But
Mhm.
even when you're starting out, you have opinions that matter. You have
Yeah.
instincts that you should
Yeah.
listen to. I had a voice. I always describe it as like up and to the right. And I feel like I would just go away. This could be the one. Because I think, again, in any industry, a lot of us get this notion of I'm going to be discovered and one person is going to find me and help me
Mhm.
get there.
Yeah.
But my career changed when I took the wheel and I decided what I wanted to do. And that's why becoming a songwriter helped me become a singer because, oh my goodness, then I could, control the stories that I was telling and not have to rely
Mhm.
on other people. And then the next stage of my career was starting a business, becoming a businesswoman, because now I can find my audience and I can get paid to sing, which is so incredible to be able to have music with a message and also like lead women on my sales team. That feels amazing. And it's helping my
Mhm.
music get out there more. So paving my own way and deciding to take the wheel were two ways that really changed it for me, which when you're 20 something and you don't think that you have value, you're not doing because you just keep yourself low and stunted and
Right.
all these things. So own your value, my goodness. And it's so hard and it's a lesson that we have to work on every single day, right? It doesn't happen
Right.
overnight. But
Yeah.
hopefully the next generation of women is stronger. I have a 4-year-old daughter and she's so strong. I have to make sure that I'm, being strong enough to combat her sometimes
Look
and
out.
not push over. But I do
Mhm.
think we're raising a generation of stronger females and
I
children
agree.
who, when somebody gives them a hug and they don't want it, they're told to say no.
Mhm.
Great.
Mhm.
That's exactly what they should be saying. It's their body and their confidence and
Yes.
self-respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
so much
It's
there.
so much is evolving and getting better. I mean, thank
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
and we grew up in such an interesting time where like things were emerging, but at the end of the day, and especially in my industry, man's world, period, right? You
Yeah.
are a
You're
woman and you have no worth. It doesn't matter how smart you are or what you do. And again, it's gotten slightly for the younger generations. They almost are unaware of it, and they
yeah.
hear these stories that you and I have, and they can't believe it, which is
Yeah.
awesome, right?
Yeah.
To be able to raise women and girls who don't go through what we did, we're doing something right.
Yeah.
And when you're courageous and bold and start to speak up for yourself or be your own advocate, and especially the important work you're doing, like you're giving them permission. You're
Yes.
giving them permission and a path to follow and something to do. And I think sometimes we just need an example to follow,
Yeah.
right? Because we
Absolutely.
don't know. And especially if you didn't grow up with a strong female figure in your life, like your worth is only as good as what's been modeled, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Did you have mentors coming up in the finance world that were female that
No,
were helpful in that way? No.
no.
Hi.
No, I did not. I wish I
No way.
did. I actually, I in our like, it's very competitive. I had tried to get mentors and advisors to help, but they saw it as competition, or there was a another end or another side to when they said they wanted to help me. It was really just a way to use me to make money. And so I had to hire, and I'm a slow learner, and I was terrified to ask for help because I want to feel incompetent. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't fail. And so it wasn't until I went on my own and went through some traumatic things that I hired my first business coach. So I
Smart.
need someone 15 grand to mentor me, you know. But it was life changing. It was life
Yeah.
changing, not so much of what I got from her, but the commitment I finally made to myself, right?
Uh-huh.
To say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to invest in me because nobody else is,
Yeah.
and then write my ticket. And so, and,
Good
and
for
since
you.
I found some tremendous mentors and guides, but only one mentor in the industry, and it's a male,
Ah,
and in mentors overall in different industries now. And I'm part of wonderful organizations, entrepreneurs organization, women's presidents organization, which I don't know
yeah.
if you're in those, but those have really been life changing too, because like to
Yeah.
have the right support system changes the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year, I got into a mastermind for the first time,
Awesome.
and it's an entrepreneurial mastermind, and it
Okay.
also deals with AI and
Yeah.
mindset because it should be all
Hmm.
encompassing. That's what we all
Yeah.
need. But it's
Yeah.
changed the game for me. And like my word now for the rest of the year is community.
I love
Like
that.
I'm crowdsourcing for this album that I'm working on, and I was very uncomfortable asking for help a year and a half ago before this mastermind in my business, with my music, anything. And yesterday we got over
Mhm.
$10,000 for this album. And I'm just
That's
beyond
amazing.
floored. I mean, I think generosity made me very uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
now falling
It's okay.
backward into the pillow of the
Yeah.
community has been the most gratifying experience of my life.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I absolutely see that
Accept
in
it.
masterminds and coaches. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
sometimes we hesitate to pay coaches because mentor kind of feels
Mhm.
like a thing that should just be, I don't know, it's almost like love. Like you should have a meet cute and it should be easy
Yeah.
and organic,
Yeah.
but
It's
there's
not.
no shame in paying a mentor or a coach or all of
Yeah.
these things. And I think we also get this idea that education stops the day we graduate college. You know,
Hmm.
people go for
That's when
masters
it
and stuff like that.
starts.
Yeah, supplementary education is the most
Yeah.
important thing, and that's what I see my mastermind as.
Yeah.
And I'm sure yours is the same way.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, if I could have skipped college, frankly, for all I learned,
No.
like in the real world, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, the best thing that we can all do is constantly invest in ourselves and hire someone. And that was a big lesson for me too. Like the most successful people in the world are constantly hiring and paying new coaches, um and somebody I just am in the process of onboarding a new client, and he's a super successful coach and a business coach in 38 countries, and just telling me all this. And he's like, and I do financial planning for my clients. I'm like, well, then why the hell are you talking to me? And
Yeah.
he's like, because it's me and it's hard, and I need someone to like help me, hold me to the fire, because
Yeah.
I am good at convincing myself of things. And I'm
Good
like,
for you.
makes sense. Yeah, like
Yeah.
good for you for owning that, because self-awareness is such a superpower. And of course it was a dude, right? A woman would have had so much shame around it. Like
Of course.
um
We feel like we have to do
because
it
that's
all.
what they do. But it's like, no, own it. Like we all need help, let's be honest, right? It's
Yeah.
just how we choose to leverage it. So and asking for that, and for you, and getting uncomfortable and asking for that, like
Yeah.
there's zero reservations that a man would have probably had to do this same launch for your album. And you've got a really cool story to share. And so I think it's like embrace it, and in the beauty of people wanting to help see your journey come
Yeah.
true, right? It's a fun story people get to play a role in.
Yeah. And the power of asking. And now everyone is going to feel involved
Yeah.
in this beautiful way. So when it comes out, they'll feel even
Yeah.
more excited. And the power of asking twice. Like that's what I learned
Yes.
yesterday because I have a friend who
Mhm.
is like the nonprofit go-to woman, Robin Berlinski. And I reached
Yeah.
out and I said, I have a feeling I'm supposed to do this. but I feel uncomfortable. So I'm going to ask you, am I
Yeah.
supposed to ask the people that already donated again as we get closer to the deadline? Like, should I ask them twice? And she said, absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
them, tell them how
Yeah.
far you've gotten in the past month, but
Mhm.
also, yeah, ask again. And like someone who bid 50 the first time, then gave me 750. And I was just like, what? Like the generosity and like
So
the
cool.
power of asking, the power of the follow up, asking twice.
Mhm.
I'm so good at following up via email. And
Mhm.
yet I got a little uncomfortable asking twice for a donation. And so, like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're going to be have
Yep.
experienced discomfort. But one of my favorite quotes from one of my mentors, Jen Gottlieb, is fear is always going to be there.
Mhm.
People try to say, be fearless. There's no such thing as fearless. Fear's
Yeah.
always going to be there. You've got to
Of
put it in the
course.
passenger seat and move
Mhm.
forward anyway.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's when the confidence unlocks in front of you on
Mhm.
that road,
Yeah.
because fear's always there and you're still moving
Mhm.
forward.
Yeah, I love that. And
And
fear, like
congrats
to
on
me,
landing that client too. That makes me so proud of you. Like,
yeah,
working with all
thank you.
that and
Like
still works with you.
I'm excited. I'm like, what are you going to teach me?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so cool. And
Beneficial.
we have a lot of people, ironically, that like come to us in that space. And, but it took a long time, I think, to kind of get there and break down that barrier. And, in fear too, like I was talking about this the other day, like similar vein. It's like, if I'm not fearful of something, something's probably wrong because I'm not
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah.
You're not getting that uncomfortable, like or feeling that discomfort or getting
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And like for me, I'm like an addict of just continuing to see like what else I can get after.
Yeah.
If I'm comfortable, I'm probably not feeling well. So
Absolutely.
that is just part of like what makes me go. and
Yeah.
and I think and entrepreneurs can relate to this. Of course, everybody else thinks we're nuts, but
Yeah.
it's so cool and to see that. And so and you now just got off traveling. Now, how long you did the road show and
Settled. This is the
lived in
first
an
podcast here.
lived in an Airstream. So tell us a little bit about that and like what, like just
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, we
how
did the COVID
with
fantasy.
kids.
Yes,
Yeah.
with a 4-year-old. We did the COVID fantasy. The worst part of it was renovating an Airstream. So if anyone is thinking of that, I would say don't do it. My husband is extremely handy. He had his whole family helping him. We thought it would take 3 to 6 months because we're optimistic. And owning something from 1974 means you're also owning some issues from 1974.
Oh
And
yeah.
we just uncovered more and more issues. It took
Yeah.
2 years. And then we ended up living in it for only 8 months because we had a lot of fun. It was a big journey and adventure, but my daughter wasn't able to be in preschool. She wanted social interaction. And then my husband really wants more stability. I'm very variety forward. I love every day is
Yeah.
different. That's my career. That's my life. But some people need a little more stability, and that's fine
Mhm.
too. And that's when I started to think about this word community a little bit more and miss it. And that's why I'm like, this is my
Yeah.
word going forward. Because, like we're talking about, your tribe is so important. And nobody is doing things alone. And that's another thing I learned in the mastermind. Everybody and their mom in this mastermind has a VA. And if anyone
Yes.
listening doesn't know what that is, it's a virtual assistant. And I have one now. She's the most fantastic asset on my team. Well, not the most, I shouldn't say that about other people. They're all incredible, but she's incredible. Everyone's
Mhm.
incredible. And it's that pedaling under the surface of the water. It looks calm on
Yep.
top, but there's a lot going on underneath. When I watched the Taylor Swift documentary, she has a team of people around a
Oh,
conference
yeah.
table making one decision for her.
Mhm.
And she's, of course, very involved. But it also showed me that when you lean into that tribe, they can actually be better at you at some things. Like, I am a
Mhm.
highly competent individual. I am so, forward focused and motivated.
Yeah.
And yet I wasn't going into schools with flyers telling people that this assembly exists and this curriculum exists. And I wasn't comfortable doing that. And Audis, one of the girls I work with, was like, hey, can I print up some flyers and go in person? You're so bold. Yes, do it,
Yeah.
so they can actually surprise you with being better than you at certain
Mhm.
things. And
Yeah.
yeah, opening that up and letting them be better than you and take the
Right.
reins in that way is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
That Oh yeah. I mean, and that was a big eye opener for me is like, I can't remember who told me, and they're like, Nicholle, the goal is to hire people smarter than you, like get over
Yeah.
yourself. And I'm like, oh, you're right. Cause I do suck at a lot of things. Like I'm very good at many, but I'm terrible at others. And
Yeah.
when they framed it that way, it was like, I think of my just ego getting in the way, like nobody can do it better than me. And this is my baby.
Yeah.
And what if somebody messes up? And I
Totally.
read this other book. I think it was Dan Martell's, Buy Back Your Time. I don't know if you read
Yeah.
that. And he had
Yeah.
talked about like 80% done is 100% better than you doing it. And
Yeah.
just setting the expectation that they'll fail, and that's okay. That's how they're going to learn. You failed too. Like,
Yeah.
and being okay with that, I think was a big thing for me to
Yeah.
just let it go. And that's the only way you can grow. It's the only way you grew your business the way that you have, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And you can
And
focus
it's
on the thing you
like
love.
we might be really good at something, but we might also not like doing it. Like if you
That
give me
too. Yeah.
in last fall, I was reaching out to schools in Denver about our assembly and about
Mhm.
our social emotional curriculum. And I had a list of 942 schools. And I sat down, and I have a very hard time once I start a task stopping it. I wanted to
Mhm.
get to the end of that list.
Yep.
I didn't want to break for lunch or anything. And then I started developing this pain in my temple because I was so focused on my computer all day. And I was just like, this is not a healthy place for me. And that's when I brought in a couple
Yeah.
sales representatives to do that work on their own time. And then I get to support this amazing working mom and this other new mom of two. And when they get a commission, it's so exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's support and build
Yeah.
teams and lead them. I love that you said that.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you for sharing so many parts of your journey, and if there was one message that you were to have for other women entrepreneurs, what would that be?
Keep going, it gets easier is always what I say, because through the
That's a good one though.
hard days you will push through. And then also, I love the idea that one of my mentors has shared, which is you don't have to believe in yourself 100%. You only need to believe in yourself 51%, a little bit more than you don't believe in yourself. Because all of these big
Mhm.
notions of fearless and believe in yourself
Mhm.
all the way just feel overwhelming sometimes. And you're doing so many
Yeah.
things. So a step forward every day is a step forward
Mhm.
every day. Yeah, it's going to get messed up when a kid is sick, and you can't do that because they're
Yeah.
home from school and stuff like that. But we're all working. And this is an important one that I love. So you said one, and I'm like, here's four.
Hey, share
Um,
it.
but also, when you have an idea or a product or a
Mhm.
mission or a song that is going to help people, it's actually your mission to get it out there. And then
Mhm.
taking yourself out of it is so powerful. Like, I had a really hard time doing this fundraiser. And then I realized this isn't for me. It's for the girl who's having heart surgery who keeps asking me when a recording of that song is going to be available. It's for the
Yeah.
kid who keeps posting about it and saying, when is the song going to be available? So aligning with something greater than yourself is always going to help you get out of bed when it's hard.
Mhm. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that so much. And I never heard the 51% thing. So thank you for sharing that. I'm putting it in my pocket. But you're so right, and such good reminders for all of us, because it doesn't matter where you are in your journey, like how veteran or new, like life is hard, business is hard.
Yeah.
And these like ebb and flows don't stop; they just change and morph, and we just get more experience. So thank you so much, Caley. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you
Are you kidding
coming
me?
back and like
Thank you for
sharing
having
your
me.
story. It was amazing. You were amazing.
Reconnected.
So until next time, my powerhouses, continue to be courageous. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you kidding
Um,
me? It's so beautiful to
yeah,
be.
no. Thanks so much for listening to Becoming PowHERhouse. You can find all of the links to our site and resources in the show notes. Let's connect on Instagram at PowHERhouse Money, and don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at PowHERhouseMoney.com. Remember, I want to connect with you. I want to hear your thoughts and help you with all the challenges you're having. So engage, send me a DM. And of course, if you're loving this podcast, let us know and go ahead and hit the subscribe button and leave a review.